Hello, everybody out there. I kind of wanted to take a moment and talk about something that I've been going through, and it's a difficult thing for me to talk about, but I kind of feel like it's important. And there's something that I subscribed to Noom, and I've been working on a weight loss journey. It's just been critically necessary. I'm 40 years old. I'm severely obese, and it needs to get addressed. I've been encountering some health issues symptomatically that are basically some red flags that need to get addressed. It is no longer a situation where I am simply the look of terror in people's eyes, the same as a newborn would be when entering an airplane and people are praying that I'm not their neighbor. It is something that, well, like I said, it needs to get addressed. So, like a lot of you, I saw the ads for Noom. I've seen them on TV. I've seen the internet ads and so on and so forth. And, it touts that it is a psychology-based approach to weight loss. And I've been on it for about a month now, and I have lost about 20 pounds in that month. So I have also switched away from it. I have just recently canceled my subscription from re-upping, and I wanted to talk about what I liked about it, what it is, what it isn't, why I appreciate it and why I recommend it, and also why I switched away from it. So the thing about Noom is in the ads, yeah, I mean, it touts what it is, but at the same time, there's also a level of ambiguity. It doesn't really fully explain in great detail what this program is. And that's another reason that I kind of wanted to make this video, is to alleviate that ambiguity and provide some real contextual, factual information for anybody that might be considering subscribing to Noom, because it's not cheap. It's not a $5 a month subscription-based kind of thing. It's something that you typically, I don't know if they have a month-to-month. I was put on a plan that I prepaid for 8 months in advance, and I'm not getting that money back, which is fine. Like I said, I appreciate what it is. I appreciate the impact that it's made in my life. I've just made a choice to go to something different, and I'll get to that. But basically what it is it's a mobile app that teaches caloric counts, calories in, calories out, which is a very sensible and healthy approach to weight loss. There's nothing special about the diet itself. There's no, like restriction on carbs, anything like that. Beyond what it does with calories in and calories out, it has a grading system of red, yellow, and green, and not necessarily in terms of good, medium, and bad foodstuffs. Instead, it's more based on caloric density. And the caloric density basically just amounts to, if you have a pound of ground beef and then you have a pound of salad, quantity-wise, the salad is going to be a mountain and you're going to be full because it has less caloric density. So the amount that would actually fill your tummy based on the number of calories. So I guess that would be a better thing. It's not a pound versus a pound, but more, say, 100 calories of ground beef versus 100 calories of salad. That's a much better way of putting it. So based on the number of calories, how full it's actually going to make you. So the stuff that has a less caloric density, that has more water-based and is generally better for you, is going to be in the green category. And then that's pretty much a free-for-all for the most part. And then you have the yellow, which is going to be a little bit more restrictive, and then the red, which is a little more restrictive still. And then you have, ultimately, within the confines of those color grading systems, you have your daily caloric intake. And that's a basic math thing, just by existing, just by sitting on my ass all day. But the fact that my heart is pumping, my lungs are breathing, my muscles are moving around, just in terms of keyboard clicks, just the act of being takes up calories. It consumes energy to exist. And you want to wind up in a caloric deficit from that. If you actually are active and you're moving around more, then you wind up with more of a caloric deficit because you're expending more, things like that. But that's the basic general principle, and that is the most healthy, approachable way to weight loss. And I'm not here to really talk about other weight loss methods and, if they're healthy or unhealthy. Your mileage may vary, and ultimately really should be a conversation you have between you and your doctor or nutritionist or dietitian, somebody along those lines. But in my experience, that's the healthiest way, and that's the most approachable, attainable, and sustainable way for weight loss. And to give a little bit of history on myself, just to kind of back up a little bit, about 13 years ago, I've always been heavy. I've always been a heavy dude, and about 13, 14 years ago, I dropped about 80 pounds and was doing great. I was running about 6K every 2-3 times a week, and I was just awesome. But stressors in the life, so on and so forth, gained it all back. Couple years back, I dropped about 50, gained it all back. And honestly, throughout this quarantine period over this last year, it's just been, I am at my heaviest. I was before starting Noom. It's just always been kind of a fluctuation thing there, but I've always generally just been heavy. But the times that I have lost a significant amount of weight has always been through caloric counting and winding up with that deficit. Just basically eating less than my body consumes so that my body starts consuming itself. That being said, so that's the reality of what Noom is, just generally. Also, it does have daily lessons, and it kind of works on a lesson track kind of thing like Candy Crush, where you have the track as you make progress towards things and so forth. That teaches the caloric density lessons and what you can substitute lessons and how to tame your cravings, as well as small choices that we can make. And then it starts to get into things like mindful eating and habits there to reapproach your relationship with food, which is good. And I've only been on it for about a month, so there are plenty of lessons down the track that I never got to. But that is generally what it does. So you have the calorie counting, you have the red, green, and yellow, you have the lessons, and then you have a community thing. And this is one thing that I wanted to specifically address, because the ambiguity with Noom in the ads is one thing, but then you can sign up for a trial to see how well you like it. But the thing of it is, the community aspects don't really open up to you until you've made your way down that track for a while, which doesn't happen until after your trial expires. So it's more, even if you go through the trial, you have to kind of trust that the community aspect is going to be worthwhile. The first thing it does is connect you to somebody one-on-one that checks in with you, and then it opens you up down the road from there into more of a community group setting. You get paired up with a group of 20, 30 people that are on the same journey you are, and you have like a group moderator, mediator that can answer questions, things like that. So that, in a nutshell, is what Noom is. And I want to talk about the deficiencies that I found in the program, how much I enjoyed, or at the very least appreciate what it did for me, and why I decided to move away from it. So here is why I appreciate it. I want to get the good stuff out first, because I don't want to make this video and make it sound like Noom is a scam, because it's absolutely not. This is a very good, healthy, non-scam approach to weight loss. But there are blemishes in the mix here, and everybody that is going to be plunking down a couple $100 should be aware of what those blemishes are. And maybe it's a situation where it works for you, but it doesn't for me. That's all right. But that's one of the things I kind of want to address, because for me, it's been, especially during quarantine here the last year, it has been an exceptionally difficult thing for me to get started with anything on my own. It'll be a situation where after a couple days of eating right, or counting my calories through an app, I'll drop off. I've even had times, just admittedly here, where I'll drop off on the third meal. I'll have breakfast and lunch doing good, and then dinner's just fuck it. So it's been a really difficult thing for me to get off the starting line. And that's the appreciation that I have for Noom, is it got me off that starting line. I feel like I'm really on a roll here, and I'm doing well, and I'm able to make this transition to something else with confidence. And that is something that has been exceptionally important to me. And I will forever be grateful for Noom to do that. That has been the biggest hurdle so far. So now to talk about some of the blemishes, because there are several. The first of which is it doesn't scale. The program doesn't scale per person. The lessons that it teaches you is a one-size-fits-all solution. And I just don't think that that's the best way of approaching things. The lessons and the community and so forth, I was put in with lessons and so I am not a woman in her 20s that is looking to lose 10 pounds to fit into a bridesmaid's dress by May, which is fine. If you are that, I'm not disparaging you. I'm just saying that everybody's journey is different. I'm somebody, I hate putting numbers out. I'm somebody that needs to drop 150 some odd pounds or more. And it's going to have to take a couple years to get there. And then once those couple years pass and I hit the goal weight, it's going to take another couple years of strict maintenance. And beyond that, it's going to take a lifetime of change. So clearly, the two paths are not the same. And the fact that this doesn't scale to accommodate that became readily apparent. I was getting things like tips on changing out white rice for brown rice, things like that. And I'm sitting to myself thinking, I'm having a 6-inch sub instead of a 12-foot double meat sub. Thank the stars above that I'm having rice at fucking all, So, I was getting tips of above and beyond the level that I was at. I was still trying to work on limiting quantities and working within the confines of that to make the best decisions possible in terms of health. And this wanted to take me to an nth degree that I wasn't really, it didn't resonate. It didn't fit me and my journey. Likewise, the community aspect, I didn't really have anybody that was on the same page as me, and that made it difficult to connect with people and their struggles and so forth. And I mean, it made it difficult for me to offer advice to anybody, the same as getting advice from anybody. Somebody that was having trouble because, they're having difficulty meeting their caloric deficit and not going over. And, to be honest, I'm probably eating twice as much as them and still winding up with my caloric deficit. So what kind of advice can I offer them? It doesn't scale. That was a big issue for me. Another thing is the lessons become completely meaningless. And that becomes, with the scale thing. Yeah, but there's also areas where you have to put in some input. We'll teach you this plan and then you to think about how you want it to affect your life and so forth. So, put in the fields here, your tricks, your tips that you are going to adhere to, things like that. And the thing of it is, nobody's monitoring it. It never comes up again. To the best of my knowledge, it doesn't save it for future use. It just dumps it as soon as you hit next. So you can put in whatever you want. It doesn't fucking matter. And again, with the not scaling thing, it just kind of made it so that the lessons became more of a daily burden after a while. So it I don't know. It didn't, like I said, didn't really resonate with me. The lessons were nice at first because I did get some helpful tips like the calorie density things and so forth. But after a while, it kind of didn't really match my journey. And because it didn't match my journey and because the input fields didn't fucking matter, I didn't really need it anymore. It just didn't match. It became something that I felt like I had to do more than I wanted to do. And that's not really the best approach to things. Number 3, it doesn't have a website, which was honestly big for me. I use my phone a lot. I mean, this YouTube channel and so forth and connecting with people and social aspects. I'm on my phone a fair bit, probably more than most people. But that doesn't mean I want to be on my phone. Not nearly as much as I actually am. So the fact that there wasn't a web companion component to this was a big minus in my book. There is nothing where you can log into the website, track your calories, track your progress, put in recipes, nothing like that. The only thing you can do through the website is manage your account, so far as I can tell, or, create an account, create your subscription, go on from there. But everything else, all the meat of the program is on the mobile app. And for me, that didn't sit well. I didn't like that part. The biggest problem for me, I'm going to go ahead and get to the next blemish here. I'm skipping ahead a couple here. I have my bullet points, but I kind of want to address this one because this is the big one that made me go away from this. The calorie counting is terrible. I don't say that lightly, but it is. It was just fucking awful. There were several aspects of it that make me say that. First of all, I would say that 9 times out of 10, it was wrong, which is a huge, huge discrepancy. It would have a barcode function where, you snag a box of multigrain Cheerios, you want to scan, boop, and, say you want to have a serving of it. Easy peasy. It's Cheerios. I mean, that's a pretty common product. It's on the shelves of everything and everywhere in the U.S., but it's wrong. And the same goes for almost everything that I scanned in, looked up, so on and so forth. All the calories were wrong. All the coloring was wrong. The green, red, yellow thing, that mattered, and it was just seemingly random. I would scan a bag of frozen broccoli, not with sauce or butter pats or anything like that, just frozen broccoli. And from Green Giant, it would be a green color and be kind of a free-for-all as long as it met your daily caloric intake. And I would scan another bag of just nothing but broccoli florets, frozen, same exact thing, but from Wegmans, and it would be yellow. It never made any sense, and it never was consistent. And also, the calories would be wrong. So I would have to wind up putting in my own stuff all the time. And when you do that, it doesn't even assign it a color. So it doesn't wind up matching your charts. And yes, you can flag incorrect things, but that's another problem is it doesn't have any follow-through. There's nobody getting back to you saying, thank you for your input, we've made the correction. Or nobody getting back to you saying, could you please give us a snapshot of the nutrition facts? There's nobody doing any sort of follow-through, so you can never tell when it will be correct, if it will ever be correct, or if this is winding up in the same place as those form fields that you filled out and just... So it winds up being a situation where you are having to put in everything that you do manually, and then you wind up in a situation where two things. First of all, the stuff that doesn't have a nutrition label, the fruits and breads and so forth that you get from the local bakery, or the produce that you get that doesn't have a barcode or a brand name label, the fresh stuff. You have to trust that that's right when nothing else has been. That's a problem. The other thing is it made me not want to branch out, which is also a problem. If you're talking about something where you need to change your lifestyle, your entire relationship with food, you need to be able to branch out. You need to be able to, introduce yourself to some variety, be a little courageous and go to the shelves that you never would, figure out what works for you, what doesn't. And the thing is, I would basically be thinking as I look through those shelves, fuck, I don't want to be entering in 15 new things and always be discouraged when I scan the barcode and have it be incorrect. So it started to affect me on a level that affected my shopping and my dietary choices, which is a huge problem. Another thing, and this is nitpicky, but even so, apps like Lose It, when you scan the barcode, it allows you to use your camera's flash function, the light on your camera, which when you're scanning a UPC barcode, it takes some time. It's not the most clear thing for your autofocus to kind of, snag onto, recognize it. And the flash component helps a lot. If you have any sort of dim lighting, if you're not having it under direct light, then it can be a little difficult for it to scan. It's not like a QR code where it has reference points that can easily determine anything along those lines. It takes a little bit. And this doesn't have the flash feature. So you do have to get it under direct light in order for your camera to actually recognize it properly. Hello, phone. So nitpicky, but even so, it was just one more aspect that made it more difficult to get the nutrition information in there. And then when you scan the barcode, everything's fucking wrong. So that was a big issue for me. And the fact that there was a way to flag things, but no follow through. if there would have been somebody saying, anything coming back, or if I flagged something and said, thank you for your flag, could you please take a picture of the barcode and a picture of the nutrition label, and we will have our experts get back to it. They would put in the correct information. They would have the UPC so that they could do a proper, association with the product, and verify that what I'm putting in is factual so that it provides a better community experience. That would have been aces. That would have been my big solution to this. But they don't, and that was a big problem for me. Another thing is the community itself. This is starting to get into a little bit nitpicky territory, but even so, the community itself didn't seem to be terribly well organized. It was basically just somebody created a topic, and then you could comment. And each of the topics, parent level or the comments, you could do a like. And there really wasn't any structure beyond that. There was no daily threads or check-ins and so forth. And again, I wasn't on the same page as everybody else, so it became difficult to identify. And then some of those lessons where they didn't resonate with me then started to have some forced class participation aspects going for it, where it would do something along the lines of, thank you, come up with your tips and your tricks and so forth, and now share them with your group. And it's like, well, I didn't really come up with any tips or tricks because this didn't resonate with me. You're on a different page than I am, so this doesn't really match my criteria, such as things like the mindful eating exercises, which are noble and they are good, and I don't want to disparage them for other people, but they don't always fit me and my lifestyle. And I know that an aspect of my lifestyle has to change to accommodate that. I recognize that. However, there are some core elements of me, things like turn off your screens, like, radio, computer, phone, TV, the whole bit. Turn everything off and just focus on your food and every bite, and put your fork down on the, down, then pick it back up, take a bite, put your fork down again, and things like that, where I am somebody that works in IT. I work remotely from home. I also have a YouTube channel where I watch and review horror movies. Screens are a huge part of my life. And for me, the real journey needs to be happening with what's being put on the plate, both in a nutrition and a quantity way. I don't really graze. I don't really snack. It's just more the nutrition changes that need to be happening. Once it's on the plate and those decisions been locked in, I'm fine. If that's what I put on there, with the salad and a, limited number of, calories as far as meat and side and so forth, I'm good. I'll eat it. I'll be happy. I'll have, a gallon of water. Good to go. But it's the choices of what is going to be there that has always been my downfall, and not going out and, eating some fast food. So, meal prep comes into play and so forth. But again, the lessons weren't scaled, and then having an unorganized community of people that aren't also scaled and on the same page as me, and then having to share with the class, it just didn't work for me. So here's what it comes down to is I am using the Lose It app now. I have transitioned over to that, which has a much better, more accurate calorie database, as well as, some features that I really like with it. It's worked for me in the past, and that's what I've switched over to. So this is a situation where Noom is a Swiss Army knife. It's really good, and it's tried and true. And for some people that are going out and doing some day camping, car camping for a week or so, perfectly fine. But the journey that I'm on is way more than just a week of car camping. The journey that I'm on is something that is going to take a lifetime of, to use the, continue using the imagery here, is going to take a lifetime of being out in the woods and survivalist tactics. And a Swiss Army knife would do the job technically, but why would I stick with a Swiss Army knife when I can get some individual tools that are better suited for my journey? So that's the decision that I came to. Yes, I paid for 8 months. Yes, I'm going to take that loss. I'm not even going to try for a refund because I did lose the weight. I did get over that initial hump. I am extraordinarily happy and I have gratitude. I'm grateful. That's the word. I'm extraordinarily grateful that Noom helped me get there. So I have no complaints in terms of where I started and where I wound up and the money that I spent to get there. I would happily do it again to get to that point where I can now feel like, thank you for getting me off the starting line. Thank you for, getting the first gear going and popping the clutch and so forth. Now I'm ready to hit the second gear and continue on. Now I'm ready to continue on with the tools that are better suited for me. So I'm going to be using Lose It. I'm going to be using the actual Lose It subreddit community, which is much better organized. It's a much better it's a community where you can find people on the same path that you're walking, as well as a host of people that are at a different point on that same path, where they had to lose as much as you did, where they are now, the journey that I described of several years of loss and then several years of maintenance and then a lifetime of follow through. They are on, the fourth year of that, and they can help me along that way. And that's one thing that was missing from that community aspect. So with Noom. So the fact that I'm going to be going with different options, but again, because of the ambiguity of the commercials and because of the ambiguity even after going through the trial period, which you do have to pay for, I wanted to provide some clarity and some real world pros and cons of Noom and hopefully help somebody out, before they drop a couple $100, at least know what they're in for. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying now you have the information, because I feel like that information was not extraordinarily forthcoming prior to my signing up. So hopefully this helps somebody out. I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. I wanted to just thank everybody for watching this, and I will be back tomorrow with a new horror movie review. Scout's Honor. Talk to you soon.